Hello, greetings. Welcome to Tigrai Media House. I have invited two guests, one from London, the other from nearby in the Washington DC area. Their names are Abdul Shukri Omar, Somali Ethiopian originally. He now resides in London. He is part of the Silent Global Team movement. Abarra Paulus in Maryland is originally from Kambata, and he is also part of a Solidarity of the Nations. Well, they will be discussing the current issues in Ethiopia, or the crisis, and where we are heading to. Welcome, guests to the board.
Thank you.
Great. Well, why don't we start with what the respective organizations you represent or you are part of are doing mainly. I will start with Abdul Shakri, what that Silent Global Team is about, and what are the activities you are engaged on daily basis.
Thank you for having me on this show. Silent Cry is a group of youth that based here in the United Kingdom, here in London. We make movements for the rights of the people in wider East Africa, I should say, but mainly focusing on the rights of people in the Ogaden region, in Ethiopian Somali region. It has been, this organization has been for the past 10 years, been going on in campaigning for the rights of the people. But not only the Ogaden or the Somali region, our focus is more on the wider rights of the people of East Africa. I believe, as a part of Silent Cry, that East Africa, the people of communities in East Africa are connected. If one has a right, then the other one will have a right. And if there's a one issue going on one side, then that issue will have some sort of effect with others. So Silent Cry is about speaking out the rights of the people in generally in East Africa, but more into Somali region of Ethiopia.
I think that's very perfect to start with. Let me go to Abarra. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization I just mentioned? Is it an organization or just a network, the Solidarity of Nations? And I see you very active online, writing, posting stuff, sharing information. And if you can share with our viewers what you do and what your focus are currently on.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Desta. As I said, I am originally from Ethiopia, Kambata region. I'm residing here in Maryland, Washington, DC area, as you stated. To start with, I'm in the social network area. I'm very active. That is my routine activity to communicate with different people and expressing my own concerns and that I have for the country originally I come from. Primarily, my writings are to suggest ways and means to resolve the current crisis that the country is facing. The people are dying. Apart from famine. Against Abiy's regime, nothing is personal. From day one, the day he was the so-called inaugurated, if you want to mention it. I belong to Solidarity of Nations. This Solidarity of Nations is a non-profit organization founded 2 years back. One of them from day one. Solidarity of Nations' primary goal is to present an alternative approach to Ethiopian political crisis. Namely, Abiy's empire building project is not viable to the nation. He's going back to the old ages, namely one language, one king, one religious point of perspective or thought, one cultural makeup, when the country is composed of so many cultural, linguistic, religious, and political backgrounds and diversities. So solidarity of nations, since day one, we are against this, the so-called Ahadawian. Ahadawian, nothing has to do with Ethiopian unity. Ahadawian stands for one flag, which they somewhat spiritualized even, sent from God, according to them. One language, that is Amharic, when there are 80 plus languages. Self-governance, advocacy for self-governance, which is very much constitutional and democratic. And Abiy has suppressed all, or if he is not directly suppressing it, he is becoming a tool and a means to bring back that empire building project, which we are against. So that is what solidarity stands for. Currently, we are like 16 plus, even more people, backgrounds, namely from Somali, Afar, Tigray, Oromia, Kambata, Hadija, call it. So we are non-profit
Okay, good.
organization.
I think that will do for a start. Let me go back to Abdul Shukri. As in Ethiopia, what kind of mess are we in, Abdi? How do we come to be in this kind of mess in a very short time after so many very promissory trending? How did we come to this depths of crisis?
It's a very good question, and I think it's not just a question; is a very wide question of how we, our people go into these situations. Ethiopia, as we all know, is a country with a long history. Not only with a long history, as my brother was saying now, is a country with a nation, nationalities, different people, different cultures, different religions, which gives us, in a way, in a positive way when you look at it, is a blessed country because we have so many different communities that can live side by side. But the problem is, I think Abiy Ahmed, since he came to the to power accidentally, not something that he planned, it's become where it shows that one leader came to power, and Abiy Ahmed clearly doesn't have the ability to lead a huge country which is so much different varieties, nations, nationalities, peoples, and culture, different religions, different language, and it's so much to kind of gradually build up together. But by the look of it, Abiy Ahmed didn't have the ability to lead this country, and that is very clear. When you want to lead country like this, it's that you need to have the ability to lead. Not only the abilities, but you need to have the courage of understanding where this nation came from, where everyone is heading to, how to put people together. And at the moment, it looks like the lack of leadership is taking Ethiopia downhill, and that lack of leadership is bringing a lot of conflict. Look at us, Somalis and Amhara. There's a conflict going on. Look at Amhara, Tigray. Look at Oromians and Amharas. All different nations and all different regional states. When you look at now, there's a conflict going on. And at the moment, the question I always ask myself is, how can we bring this together back and make this nation live side by side? And there is one of the concerning things right now is the how much hate that is going on in different nations. And it kind of reminds me back in our country, in our brothers in East Africa, Rwanda, 1994. What has happened is there was this different nations, Tutsis and Hutsis, were two different clans next to each other, and there was a hate going on through their medias, and that media leading to that many people died for actually no reason. And at the moment, to me, it looks like we're gradually building to that kind of similar road.
Yeah, great. And Avara, if you can weigh in on this, and my follow-up point would be, I mean, this kind of mess, this kind of crisis cannot come accidentally. Someone must have been planning something to bring this. And who are these actors? If you just can give me a general map of the conflict, who is doing what, and to what end, and who will be accountable for all this and responsible for all this?
Yeah, that is, by the way, very great question to have a real background of everything that we are facing today in Ethiopia. It didn't just pop up accidentally. We can't say we don't know. There are tendencies, many people start telling us that the war started 2 years or 1 year ago, or how many, with the so-called attack on Samen is. That is not the case. Those are the cover-ups. What is underneath is the whole political turmoil that the country is facing. It's not just facing in terms of experiencing. It is in it. Genocide is waged under the pretext of national integrity, which is not the case. People are dying of hunger. It is man-made. As at one point, a British scholar, I think, mentioned, if I'm not wrong, I can stand for correction, a kind of green famine. People could produce because the political environment is not favorable. Abiy is a tool. What he wants is to achieve the dream of his mama, which every mother can dream to her kid or to her daughter, to be a doctor. Oh, my son can be a pilot. Well, he just expanded that delusional thought that my mother dreamt or said to me when I was very young age, that I will be the seventh king. That is the only thing in front of his table. That is the only thing that he knows. In order to achieve all this, he has to pay a lot of price. He has to create alliance with the world-class dictator like Isaias. He has to create alliance with all sorts of people like Andargacho Sege Branunaga, this typical Ahadawian. So that the background, it is not just popped up. I repeat myself. It has roots. The remnants of the regime who supported him are there. When I say the remnants, those who are angered for the failure for what they did. So that hate politics that is coming out from his office is not something that is just created overnight. It has been there for 27 years under the regime of EPRDF. But my worry was, even though I was not a member of EPRDF made a capital sin. Number one, the southern peoples, he just put under the southern nations' nationality. And then ineffective, politically incompetent people have been running, managing. You can see as soon as the death of Mallah Zenawi, crackdown. So the whole idea, what is the roadmap? The roadmap is to build monocultural, monolinguistic, monoreligious empire. Remember, few days later, he became the prime minister. He said, we have to bring the glory, the old glory of Ethiopia. What is the old glory of Ethiopia? He didn't say, let us continue fighting poverty. He didn't say that. Let us bring that old glory. Old glory means under one Limut flag, which at times is spiritualized, sent from God, from heaven, which most Ethiopians don't accept, don't recognize. So for Abiy, is what comes on his political agenda is not really the people, nations, and nationalities. Diversity is a threat for him. That is why he went to attack TPLF or Tigray nation. What is the reason you go suddenly with the pretext of what do you call law enforcement operation? What is law enforcement? Do you really understand what it means? Is Tigray threat for Ethiopian unity? No. Tigray only said, respect my local political dynamics. I have to manage my own affairs, internal affairs. That is not the threat. So now it's worth mentioning that the silent majority of Ethiopians, they just kept quiet, number one. Or alternatively, they became indifferent. Or they sided, beating the drum of Abiy's political rhetoric. So that is where we are. The whole problem, why we are in a mess, in a few words, is that there is a huge conflict or fighting between federalists and unionists. Unionists, those who advocate for mono, all type of mono. Federalists who say, no, all politics is local. Local affairs must be managed by the locals. Languages of each community must be respected. Religious diversity must be respected. That is the whole idea behind federalism. So this is why the war broke out. Now there is a war between the defenders and offenders, the victim and the victimizer. The war soon, very destructive war will begin. Watch and see me. Why? Because there is no political will from Abiy or those who are pushing him to continue with whatever he's doing. So the problem now is not a really leadership problem, it's a vacuum of leadership. There are no leaders with guts and balls to say enough is enough. So everybody is clapping, or they are whispering in their own private homes, telling that this person is fake, he is not fit to govern the nation, but nobody is coming out. I'm pretty sure the so-called Ethiopian military force, if war again breaks out, I don't think they are going to fight. If they fight, they are committing a terrible political and military blunder. That's what I could say. Thank you.
Great. Great. Abdi, let me come to you. Abarra says there is a leadership vacuum and the things will get worse before they get better. And just picking up from that, what kind of leadership is this? Looks like I think someone characterized it as a very fetish because we have a genocide at hand and a lot of horizontal conflicts everywhere in the country, total mess, drought, and yet this thing is one thing, and a leadership that's putting some effort to mitigate or get it out of this is another thing. Therefore, we have a leadership that really complicates it more, that creates it first in the first place and then doubles down on it. In this case, How do you characterize the current leadership in Ethiopia at this point?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the major concerns to me and to a lot of people is what kind of leadership is leading Ethiopia today. I can only describe it as a very unexperienced. And then when it comes to leading, people nation, very childish and attitudes, as we've seen in the previous past years, very confused leader at the same time. But one of the major problems is very hungry leader who's hungry for power. So when you're hungry for power, it will take you to different, it will swing you into different ends. And the Abiy Ahmed obviously have never expected to become a leader of not alone in Ethiopia, but not even in his own people in Oromian region. I don't think he ever expected to become a leader. But this was kind of accident, something that we just brought him into stage, unexpectedly. At the same time, he doesn't have the courage and the confidence to make his own decisions. It looks like most of his decisions gets done outside his office, which is of course what is making him to lead into more danger in every single day. So his leadership is very worrying and is very very lacking of experience. And it looks like Abiy Ahmed just wakes up every morning thinking, okay, where should I start today, rather than having a plan to go ahead, whether it's a bad or good. So to lead people like Ethiopia, which is over 100 million people with different nations, with different backgrounds, with different religions. You need this kind of leadership who has the experience to lead people and to take risks as in. So just to make it short, at the moment Abiy experience, his leadership style have clearly shown what kind of leadership he is by his decisions that he's made for the past few years, especially if I talk about the current issues in Tigray. People in Tigray, the civilians and the children of Tigray, he actually imposed them with hunger and actually cut them off on all kind of humanitarian access. And then that is kind of leadership you never expect in this generation, in this kind of year. We are in a year where the whole world is moving toward developing themselves in better, and Africa itself, as a wider Africa, people are expecting to have a more unity Africa, more united state of Africa, more Africa which can become a more at the European style. This is the way we want to be moving after 2020, after 2022. But by looking at the leadership of Abiy Ahmed, it looks like we're back in 20, 30 years ago. So it's very, very concerning leadership style he's been showing recently.
And while you are at it, Abdi, the man is adequately described by you. What kind of system has he been running, and what kind of people where is he getting his support base? Like he said, it looks like very, very unsettling that in the 21st century, a leader is intentionally putting his people on siege to starve them to death. That's unparalleled even in history, even at some levels, and conditioning a humanitarian situation to win a war is the worst that history has witnessed. So why is he still getting support from his assistants, his people around him, the institutions in Ethiopia, and even the world seems to be looking the other way while witnessing these crimes, Abdi?
Exactly. As I said, in this year, 21st centuries, Abiy Ahmed, first of all, he can have a war with Tigray Defense Force, because that's an army who does a political movement who's ready for war. But when we talk about the people of Tigray, the civilians, the children, the women and elders, and people who cannot help themselves. It is a bizarre what he's doing right now, by actually cutting off every single road that would be leading to help those people for in a humanitarian situation in this kind of time of a year, where he's not fighting with a political movement. He's fighting with the people of Tigray, and this is one of the things that I'm raising myself, is that we should always stand up for speaking for those people. I'm not speaking for a political movement, but I'm speaking for the people, and that's something that should be concerning to everyone else. And this is a shameful act by Abiy and his administration. Shameful act, not just as an African views, but as a human being, as a humanity. The people should never go through in that stage of crisis. Right now, I mean, they have a right. They have a right to access to your foods and the basic life states in other parts of Ethiopia. They should not be getting cut off for that. That's not a war. That's beyond the war. If you want to have a war, there's an army out there. You want to fight with them, there's an army out there. But when it comes to the people of Tigray, they should have access to other Ethiopian regions, other Ethiopian states, whether it's economical, whether it's food, whether it's basic medicals. But actually cutting them off completely, this is a war, against the people in the ground, and it's something no one should accept. I don't care whether you like the political situation or not, but when you see a situation like that, every human person or right, every human, man's and in this world should be speaking out, especially for us in East Africans. I can have a different view when it comes to a political movements of different countries and different states. But the people of Tigray, the way Abiy Ahmed has treated them, it's like he had an anger for them, against them. He's suddenly moved into them. He suddenly cut off their, access to food and electricity and basic things in life. And this is something that, no one, even those in the ground, they shouldn't accept it. They shouldn't. If people should speak about, and I'm actually urging right now, people should speak about it. And it's a shameful act. And when it comes to who's supporting him, well, Abiy Ahmed, to me right now, he's lonely. I'm telling you now. He's very lonely when it comes to getting support from other countries, of international communities, and that. He's very lonely because his political, history and his political plan of the future is not clear to everyone. It's very confusing. He's on one end one day, and there's the other end on the other day. And maybe his best friend can come from the the neighbors of Eritrea, which a country which is being boxed up by one man. But Abiy Ahmed at the moment, to me, he's not. He should be ashamed of his act against humanity, especially what the people of in the ground, of the civilian people of Tigray, and what he's been doing is extremely unacceptable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Abara, given the level of crimes that we're seeing against humanity everywhere, and more massively on Tigray, and all these hate speeches, all this recklessness, crimes, lies, deceptions, and killings, what have you, are we heading to a risk of disintegration, or what do you see the future of Ethiopia is heading to from your readings and analysis?
I love this question, by the way. Just to compliment Abdi mentioned a great point. It's confusing. Abiy does not have a political roadmap. The roadmap he had is the roadmap that was drawn in Eritrea, brought by the two, call it gangsters, those who created political havoc in the country, like Andargacho Sige and Branu Naga. That is the roadmap. If you go back and watch what Andargacho said back as soon as Abiy took the power, the interview was held with Deutsche Welle. If this roadmap is not accepted, millions will die. That was his statement. So, to lead Ethiopia requires not only these sweet words. Populares like Abiy love sweet words. What he imagines even before speaking to any group is this wrong political calculation said, what does the people want to hear? So to lead Ethiopia is the most complicated and complex thing. He is not fit because he doesn't have a background. He doesn't have a political background in a real sense. Academic background? No. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to have a PhD to be a political leader. I'm not. Solid academic background that shapes you and molds you to work for the people. He doesn't have. What he has is that I usually call it Wayala language that is good at making people listen. That is a cheap popularity. So currently, there is no leadership political leadership in Ethiopia. The country is run by a political gang-up group, literally. This is why politics in Ethiopia is confusing, what Abdi was saying. Because if people just gang up, control the power, fabricating information, false informations, false expectations. Today they say something tomorrow, when nothing is true. They are engaged in fabricating disinformation and misinformation. This is why many people, they don't have a clue. When I talk in Ethiopia, people, they say, what is going on in this country? Can you tell us something? Do you guys, you know? Because they are listening only to Abiy. The people, they are worried today. The people who clapped their hands, you remember how many people clapped in Tigray? Abiy was cheated. You know why? He thought that people loved him. They clapped him because he's a great leader. No, the people clapped for the change, not for Abiy. Change from EPRDF. EPRDF was in a mess, which I'm not the only one who is saying. EPRDF members also, they say they were in a mess. So people in Tigray, people in other parts of the country, people in Somalia, people in Oromia, people in Debub Kililoj, whatsoever, people clapped their hand because people were longing a political change. So Abiy thought that everybody was clapping for him. The only people who clapped in a wrongly are the false prophets. This is the so-called Pentecostal Protestant false prophets, because they played a great role in fabricating that God is going to send a Messiah like a Moses who liberated Israel. So Abiy is going to liberate Ethiopia. So Abiy, then his head was filled with these nonsense things, delusional thinking. Now, what you said is correct, Abdi, that he is alone. He is going to be alone. He is lonely politically because people are going to come to their senses. Why he wants to humiliate people of Tigray with hunger? Because the only people in Ethiopia, with all the respect with the Somali resistance group, I'm proud of you guys. The only organized political group in Ethiopia who never want to surrender their political integrity, their cultural identity, and their consciousness, political conscience, are Tigray people. He has to humiliate them if he can. But Game over. Game over. He can't by any means. So what would be the future of this country? Are we heading to disintegration? Possibly yes, 99%. 99%. Unless otherwise, miracle happens. When I say miracle happens, unless otherwise, some genuine, people-oriented, politically savvy, politically well-equipped, experienced, diversity-loving group comes up and says, enough is enough. Because now Ethiopia don't have a religious leader or leaders who have guts and balls to say enough is enough. Because either they are clapping their hands with Abiy to commit genocide, or they are indifferent, or they are just watching. Possibly, it is not, honestly speaking, it is not my wish that the country disintegrates. However, we can't continue sacrificing human lives to keep the unity of the country. What comes first is not the country's unity. What should come first, and can come first, is the lives of people, no matter what. That is, by the way, the view of solidarity of nations when we created this non-profit organization, this advocacy group. We believe in people's uniqueness, local uniqueness, linguistic unity, religious unity. No matter, it doesn't matter what you worship. So the country is heading to disintegration because they are going to start war. Tigray will never surrender. It has never been in the vocabulary of Tigray people, in the history of Tigray people, to surrender. They are going to defend to the last point. What next? Oromia, now they are targeted groups of Abiy. The Boob is still living in an age of darkness. They are feeding Abiy without challenging him. They keep clapping their hands. So that is what where we are, and where we are heading to disintegration. Yes, but can we stop? Yes, but you need to have a political will and acknowledge, respect, and recognize the diversity of nations and nationalities, without which it is a road nowhere. You can't keep. You may suppress temporarily Ethiopian to keep Ethiopian unity, but how far? You are not going to continue keeping it the same way. Because Haile Selassie used all the means he couldn't. You remember on Tigray, 107 bombs were thrown supported by Royal Air Force of Britain.
Yeah.
They didn't. Darg did the same. They couldn't. There was a relatively peaceful time in a period of government. Now, the remnants of Derg and Haile Selassie, the so-called Ahadawian, came back with this package of recovering all the glory of Ethiopia. But they don't understand what that glory means. That their glory might be a hell for nations and nationalities. That is what is on the table now. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen. Abdi, if you can close this one for us with listing some possible ways of saving the day, the country, if there are things to be done to make it better. I want to hear from you, and then we'll call it.
Thank you to my brothers. Just made a very good point. And by your question, it is honestly speaking, it's quite hard to predict Ethiopian future today. It's a very cloudy. It's a very cloudy road ahead. Very messy. And this, as my brother is saying now, is because when you know the driver, that the leader of the country, where is swinging into, then you can actually have some sort of guess or predict where we're heading to. But at the moment, we have this leadership in Ethiopia, very amateur, usually very childish leadership, who are swinging from one end and then waking up next morning the other end. So you don't know what to predict. You don't know where to actually think that Ethiopia will be in about a few years' time, in about a few months' time. Just to add up on what's actually currently happening, is not about the confusion of the federal. There's a lot of confusion in the regional states. Obviously, Abiy Ahmed, his first step when it came to decision was to fight against the federalism systems. That was his first attempt. Obviously, he started from the Somali region. He kidnapped more than 243 people of Somali region from Tigray. He kidnapped them. They're all in prison in Addis Ababa. None of them has been taken into court yet. Even some of them are political leaders, as a former Somali regional president, and all others are in there. Some of them are religious leaders. There's among of children, a young man called Warsan, 14 years old. He's been arrested by Abiy Ahmed's armed force from Tigray in about 4 years ago. Now he's 18 years old, that young man. He hasn't been taken into court. He hasn't been told, no one told us why he was there. More than 243 Somalis has been kidnapped from Tigray by Abiy, because he's very unconfident leader. So he's worrying about everyone. He's just arresting people without any reasons or background. There's politicians in there. There's a businessmen and women in there. There's children in there, 14 years old, as I told you. Religious leaders are in there. All of them are in prison, in the main prison in Addis Ababa, and they haven't been taken to court. A lot of people nowadays say that there is a change in Ethiopia for better in human rights. Some people say, there is a change in Ethiopia. There is a leadership change in Ethiopia, but there's no changes when it comes to the livelihood of the people of Ethiopia. If there is any change, there's probably going downhill changes in terms of economical wise and peace and stability. Now, about the future, I just think that at the moment, all we can do right now is, as a people of Ethiopia in different communities from different ends of, there's different nations, obviously, is for us to continue making a noise for the people and speak out for the rights of the people, and never settle for less than for the rights of the people, and never settle for less than what people deserve in the 21st century. People deserve in peace and stability. People deserve, people in Ethiopia, we're quite lucky in a way, because we lead in the rest of Africa. The African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, and we have I'm a member of African Youth Unions, and we are hoping to have a United States of Africa. We shouldn't be worrying about this small regional states next to neighbors. We need to kind of create a peace and stability, and to do that, we need to reach out for better leadership, and it can be done. It can be done to reach out for better leadership, and speak out for the people's rights, and never settle for what's in there right now, because what's in there right now, it's not going to benefit any community of Ethiopia, from Oromian to Somalian, Amhara, Gambelas, Southern nations, Tigray, Amhara, all of this. What's going on right now today in Ethiopia is a bizarre for everyone, and anyone who's got a mind or health-minded and who can think clearly needs to campaign against this regime. It's a confused regime. They don't know where they're going, and they don't know where they come from. And for that, it can only be done by actually uniting the people of Ethiopia in here in the diaspora, and speaking out for the rights of the people, whether it's from Tigray to Somalis to in between.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, gentlemen. Our Paulus from here in Maryland, and Abdul Shakur Amar from London, discussing what Ethiopia's tomorrow will look like. And thank you. I'm glad having you here with me for a show. And to viewers, you as well, thank you for staying with us. And this one is a goodbye from me. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.